Welcome to the fifth and final part of this JavaScript tutorial series to recreate the game Breakout. So in this tutorial we're going to add some game sounds. So when the ball hits the bricks or the paddle or the wall, we'll play a sound. We'll also add some power-ups later on. So the first thing that you'll need to do is go ahead and download the sounds folder from the link below. Place the sounds folder in the same directory as the HTML/JavaScript file. Inside the sounds folder there should be 4 sounds. Okay, head into our code. First of all, I'd just like to increase the thickness of our paddle. Occasionally the ball, when it's going fast, shoots through our paddle and we lose a life, so that's not very good. So I'm thinking if we increase the thickness of our paddle, we can alleviate that problem somewhat. So just head down to our constants here. Let's create one called paddle size. Just to begin with, let's set that to 1, and we'll define that as paddle size as a multiple of wall thickness. So that's where we define our wall thickness here, so let's delete paddle from there. And head down to where we create our paddle, just down the bottom. So the paddle's height will equal the wall times our new paddle size. However, we'd like to keep the top of the paddle at the same consistent location despite this size. So in order to do that, we'll have to subtract, so this dot height originally meant the wall, so we'll minus wall times 3. We'll have to take into account half the height though, and add back on this dot height, divide by 2. So that should keep the top of the top of the paddle at the same consistent location. Let's just make sure we haven't broken anything yet. Okay, so it looks okay. Now if we change this paddle size to say 2, now keep an eye on the paddle. Yeah, so it's just extending downwards, so that's good. That's a bit too thick, maybe 1.5. Yeah, that should be okay. That should be thick enough in order to alleviate that problem. Great. Next, let's add some sound effects. So just head down to where we set up our canvas and context, just after there. Set up sound effects. So each of these will be a variable. Let's prefix it with fx. So fx brick will equal a new audio. And in the parentheses, we need the source in quotes, which will be just where we've downloaded our sound file. So sounds/brick.m4a. And we'll need to do that for each of the 4 sounds. So we'll have an fx for our paddle. So that'll be paddle.m4a. We need an fx for our powerup, same sort of thing, powerup, and finally an fx for our wall. Okay, so where will we play these sounds? Well, I'm thinking when we serve the ball, we'd like to play a sound. So in our key down function, we can access our serve function. Now within the serve function, just towards the end before we return, let's play the paddle sound. So fx paddle.play. We'll just keep our audio simple for this game. Also when we update the ball, so when the ball bounces, head down to our update ball function. Bounce the ball off the walls. So in each of these conditions, we'd like to play the fx wall. So fx wall.play. Copy that, paste it into each of these. And also when we bounce off the paddle, so just before we spin the ball here, fx paddle.play. And finally, when we hit a brick, we'd like to play something. So inside our update bricks, bounce the ball and destroy the brick just before we spin the ball again. So fx brick.play. So let's give that a go. Yeah, that seems to be working. Cool. So now let's create our power-up. So head back up to the top to our constants. So I'm thinking that a power-up can be represented as a square that floats slowly downwards that we can collect with our paddle, and there's a chance that one appears whenever we smash a brick. So how about we create a constant called, say, powerup chance. We'll prefix these with PUP, powerup, pup, chance will equal, to begin with, let's say it's equal to 1. That means there's a 100% chance that we'll create a power-up, just for testing. So probability of a power-up per brick hit between 0 and 1. We'll also need the speed of these things. How fast do they travel downwards? So I'm thinking it'll be similar to ball speed here. We'll just change that to pup speed will equal, say, 0.15. So this will be the power-up speed as a fraction of screen height per second. Now let's create some power-up types. So just down in our definitions here, where we have direction and so on, how about we create one called pup type? For this tutorial, let's just create 4 power-ups, but you can create as many as you're willing to program. The first one I'm thinking of is one that extends the width of our paddle. So how about we call that extension? And each of these will need a color and, say, a symbol. So color, let's try to choose colors that we haven't used in our game before. So how about a shade of blue here? Dodger blue. And the symbol, which I'm thinking can appear within the middle of our power-up, like within the square, can just be a simple ASCII character. So I'll just use the equal symbol for that one. You can change it to whatever you like. Let's create 4 of those. The next one we can create a bonus life. So the color can be, say, hot pink. The symbol for a life, how about a plus? Next one, how about a sticky paddle? That's where the ball sticks to the paddle and we can serve it again. It can be a shade of green. How about a darker green, say forest green? And the symbol can be the tilde character, the squiggly line. And finally, how about a super ball that smashes through the bricks? So super, the color can be a shade of pink or purple. How about magenta? And the symbol can be, say, an S for super. Because we could potentially have more than one power-up on the screen at once, we'll probably need to keep track of them all using an array. So head down to our game variables just below. Let's create one called pups equals an empty array. Now to keep track of each individual power-up, we'll probably need a boolean to say whether it's active or not. So for each of them, so pup extension, true or false, right? Pup. We don't really need one for life, do we? Because once we collect a life, we can just forget about it, right? So we'll have one for pup sticky and pup super. Whenever we lose a life, we'd probably like to reset these power-ups, so any active power-ups. So how about we head into our set dimensions, new game, inside our new ball, there we go. We can just go pup extension equals false, pup sticky equals false, and pup super equals false. Probably at the start of each level, we'd like to reset any current power-ups, so any power-ups on the screen. So just head down to our new level function. Pups will equal a new array. Let's create our power-up object all the way down the bottom, just under where we create our paddle. So function power-up, we'll need to know its location, so x, y, its size, because it's a square, and the type, the power-up type. So let's set some of those. So this dot width will equal the size. Similarly, this dot h will equal the size, this dot height. This dot x will equal x. This dot y will equal y. This dot type will equal type. And we'll also need to know its y velocity. It only moves downwards. So this dot yv will equal the speed constant. So pup speed multiplied by the height. So where will we create these power-ups? Well, when we hit a brick. So head up to our update bricks function. Here we go. Just before we set it to null, we'd like to create a Powerup. Remembering there's only a chance to create a Powerup here, so if math.random is less than or equal to our pup chance, then we'll create a Powerup, right? We'll need to set the Powerup location to the same location as the brick, so just copy that. So we'll say let p, the Powerup's x location, px, equal the brick's left position plus half its width to get to its center. So bricks ij.width divided by 2. The y location will be the top, so the brick's top plus half its height. And we'll also need a size, so let p size equal, say, we'll say that's equal to half the width. Half the width of the brick. Now we'll need to grab a random Powerup type. So we can do that by grabbing the keys of our type first. So let p keys equal, we can use this inbuilt function called object.keys and pass our type. So pup type. And to randomly select a key, so let p key equal the p keys array. And we'll, inside the square brackets, we'll write math floor. And in the brackets there, math random multiplied by the length of that p keys array. So p keys dot length. That should randomly choose a key for us. And then all we have to do is add to our pups array. So pups dot push new Powerup. And it requires an x, which is our px, py, the size, p size, and the type will be, well, our type, pup type, and in square brackets we'll put that key that we've worked out, p key. In order to test this, we'll have to draw our Powerups, so head up to our loop function right up the top. Just before we draw our paddle, let's draw pups. So head down there, just after we draw the paddle. Function draw pups. We'll have to set the line width because we're planning to draw a box. So context.line_width will equal, say, wall times 0.35, say. We probably set this elsewhere, so we'll have to make sure that we're not going to interrupt ourselves here. We're currently setting it in the set dimensions. Let's pull it out because that's only to set the line width of the wall. So let's head to draw wall. Draw walls, and just up here we'll set that context to wall. Head back to our pups. That should be okay. So we'll need to loop through our pups array. So for let pup of pups, we'll need to set the fill style. So context.fillStyle will equal the color of our Powerup. So that will be the pup.type.color. And we'll also need to set our stroke style because we're planning to draw a rectangle here. Stroke style will equal that. And we'll need to do something similar to how we've drawn this paddle up here, except that we'll be using a stroke rectangle. So context.strokeRect, and we'll need to change the paddle to pup. But otherwise it'll be very similar. Now we'll need to draw the symbol inside our rectangle. So we'll need to set up the font first. So context.font will equal, how about we make it bold? So we can just put that in quotes there. Bold plus the size of the text, which will be the pup.height. We need to write pixels after that. So px space and the font type, which is text font, I believe. Yep. We'll need to center that. So context.align, is it? Text align. Text align will equal center. And now we need to draw the text. So fill text it requires the text string, which is just our pup.type.symbol. The x position is pup.x, and the y position pup.y. Let's test that out. So we expect to see a power-up every time we hit a brick. Yeah, they're there. Yeah, they seem okay. Obviously, we'd like to move our power-ups, so head up to our loop function. Just after where we update the bricks, let's update our pups. Pass the time delta, head down and create that just before we update the score. So function update pups, and we'll need to pass the delta. So we'll need to loop over our array in order to move the pups. I'm thinking though that we'll be deleting off-screen power-ups. So knowing that we'll be deleting from this array as we're looping over it, we'll have to loop over it backwards. So let I equal pups.length minus 1. I is greater or equal to 0. I minus minus. So that's just us looping backwards over the array. Let's update the position of the pup. So pups I dot y plus equals pups I dot yv multiplied by our delta. Now we can delete off-screen. So delete off-screen power-ups, pups. So that occurs when the y position of the pup, so if pups I dot y minus half its height minus pups I dot height times 0.5, when all of that is greater than the height of the screen, then it's gone off screen, hasn't it? So we'll have to delete it. We can do that by going pups.splice. Splice requires the start number, which is I, and the delete count, just 1. We just want to delete a single power-up. Let's test that out. So these should move now. Great. Obviously we can't collect them as yet, but it's looking promising. Awesome, that's looking good. So we'll have to detect when the paddle is over a power-up in order to collect it. So just in the function above, the update paddle function, let's collect power-ups. We'll have to loop over the array backwards again, because when we collect them, we'll be deleting them. And we'll have to detect when the rectangles overlap. So let's set up an if here. So if the pups I dot x plus half its width, pups I dot width times 0.5. If that's, so that's the right-hand side of the power-up. If that's greater than the left-hand side of the paddle, so paddle.x minus paddle.width times 0.5, well, that's one part of it, but we'll need 4 of these, won't we? Let's just work with 2 to begin with. And pups x minus half its width is less than the paddle x plus half its width. We'll copy all of that and do a similar thing for the y components. And pups y plus half its height is greater than the paddle's y minus half its height. And the pups y minus half its height is less than the paddle's y plus half its height. Then we'll switch between the pup types. So pups I dot type. Each of these cases will be pup type dot extension. Repeat that 4 times. The next one is life. Next one is sticky. And the last one is super. We'll get to what they do soon. After all of that, we want to delete the Powerup from the array. So pups.splice I, 1. And this is probably a good time to play our FX, our sound. So fx Powerup.play. Let's test that. So we're expecting the Powerups to disappear when we collect them. Oh, yeah, we made the sound. Yep, that looks okay. So when I collect this, it makes a sound and disappears. That's good. Now what will extension do? Well, I'm thinking it will double the width of the paddle. So we'll have to set that flag first. So pup extension will equal true so that we know that it's in play. Now if it is in play, if we already have it, well, we don't want to get it again. Otherwise our paddle will just keep growing and growing and growing. So how about, to make it worth the player's time, we'll give them some bonus points if they collect that symbol again. So how about we write if pup extension, that means we already have an extension, then we'll increment the score. Score plus equals, we'll create a constant later called pup bonus, say. Else, that's where we will set it to equal true. And we'll extend the width. So paddle.width times equals 2. And we'll just break that. Life should be fairly easy. All we have to do is increment the lives. So add life, lives ++, break. Now for Pup Sticky and Super, I'm thinking we'll do something similar to what we have up in the extension here. So copy that, paste it into each of these. We'll just need to change the boolean to Pup Sticky for that one, Sticky, and Pup Super. Pup Super will equal true. And we don't need this width extension for either of those. We'll have to handle these elsewhere, I think. We'll just need to set up these pup bonus here. So head back up to the top. Just above where we have pup chance, we'll have pup bonus. Just a number of points. Let's just say 50. So this will be the bonus points for collecting an extra Powerup. So let's test out our first two Powerups, the extension and the life. Here's a life. Yes, we've got 4 out of 3 balls. S and the squiggly line won't do anything as yet. Here's an extension. Great, our paddle is wider. And if we get another paddle, another extension, we should get bonus points. Yes, we got 60 points now. Great. And a life. Yeah, everything seems to be working okay. Great. Now let's implement our super ball. So just below, I'm thinking the first thing that we can do is set the color of the ball. So go down to our draw ball function, where we're setting the fill style here. Let's test for that boolean. So pup super. If pup super, we want to set the color to the pup type.super.color. Else, we'll set it to the regular ball color. Now we can head down to our update bricks function. Here we go, update bricks. And where we're bouncing the ball, so just here, bounce the ball and destroy the brick. We only want to bounce it if it's not a super ball. So bounce the ball if not a super ball. So we can just throw some logic in here. If not pup super, then we'll bounce the ball. We'll change the direction of the y velocity. But if it is a super ball, it won't run that, and meaning the ball will go straight through the brick, hopefully. Let's test that out. Okay, there's a super. We got lucky. Awesome. So that seems to be working. The ball color changed and it's smashing through the bricks. Great. That seems to be okay. Lastly, we need to handle our Pup Sticky. So head back up the top. Pup Sticky. I'm thinking that we should change the color of our paddle when the paddle becomes sticky. So head down to the Draw Paddle. And we'll do something similar here like we did with the ball. So Pup Sticky. If it's Pup Sticky, we'll set it to pup type.sticky.color. Else, we'll set it to the normal paddle color. Also, how about when we have a sticky paddle, when we serve the ball again, it'll always go straight up. It'll always go at 90 degrees. So head down to our serve function. New game, serve, here we are. So where we're applying the ball speed with a random angle, just in those brackets there, we'll test for Pup Sticky. Now if it's Pup Sticky, we will serve at 90 degrees. So that's equal to math.pi divide by 2. Else, we'll shoot at the random angle. Now to add some stickiness to our ball, we'll have to go down to our update ball function. Here we go, update ball, where we're bouncing it off the paddle. Here we go, bounce off the paddle. Now we're changing the direction of it. We don't want to do that. We want to, and we don't want to spin it either. So just under there, if Pup Sticky, then we want to set the ball's velocity to 0. So ball.xv will equal 0 and ball.yv will equal 0. It'll just stick to the paddle. Else, so if it isn't sticky, then we'll do this. We'll change the direction. We'll bounce the ball. And we'll also spin the ball. We don't want to do that if we're sticky. And the FX can just sit there after those braces. I think we're ready to test this. Let's give it a go. Okay, that's Super Ball. That's the paddle. I'll get the extension. I'll get a Super Ball if I can. Oh, yeah. And here we go. Here's a sticky one. So the paddle's changed color. It's served at 90 degrees. Oh, that's not working, is it? We'll have to fix that up. If you look just below, we're moving the stationary ball with the paddle. Now we do want to do that, but we don't want to do it in this way. So I think we'll have to take that out of here and put it in the paddle instead. So head down to the update paddle function. Just after we move the paddle and stop the paddle at the walls, paste that in there. So if the ball.yv equals 0, that's good. We want to modify the ball's x, so plus equals the paddle's position, paddle.x minus the paddle's last position. We want to know how far it's traveled. So we'll make a variable soon. So last paddle x. And we can define that just before we move the paddle. So let last paddle x equal paddle x, paddle.x. And then we'll modify it, do all the wall stuff, and find the difference and move the ball based on that difference. So let's test that out. All our power-ups should be working now. Got a Super Ball. Whoa. Wow, it's smashing through everything. I'm trying to get a sticky ball here. There we go. Great. The sticky pad is working. That's awesome. And the ball is staying in the same relative position. And it should shoot directly upwards when I hit serve. It does. Awesome. Well, that's working well. The only thing we have to do now is modify the chance of receiving a power-up, because there's far too many on the screen at once here. So we'll go do that now. So just head right up the top, go up to our constants. Pup chance is currently 1, so that's 100%. Let's set it to something a bit more reasonable, say 0.1, so 10% chance. Give that one more test. So we won't see near as many power-ups here, but when they do come, they'll be very special, won't they? We'll We'll just play until we get 1 or 2. But basically that's the end of this tutorial series. So we've fully created the game Breakout and added a few cool power-ups just for fun. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial series. I certainly enjoyed creating it. Awesome. So I've got myself a sticky pad. Anyway, feel free to download the code and enjoy this game for yourself. Maybe you can come up with some new power-ups, new exciting power-ups. Okay, until next time, talk to you then. Bye.